So we're here with Serena Colin today at her home base, just near Raymond Terrace in New South Wales. What's the name of the...
Madawi.
Madawi. We're in Madawi, and this is a beautiful place, Serena. You've obviously done some work around the place and you're improving it and developing it since I was here last.
Yes, yeah, we've been here for almost 10 years now, so we've done really everything. We've really put all the infrastructure in here ourselves over the years with my wonderful parents, my wonderful family.
Fantastic, and I'm sure you've put in more infrastructure to meet your needs as you develop your career and your business.
Yeah, absolutely. As the business has grown and the horses have, improved and are arriving of higher quality, and we've done bigger improvements to our stables, to our arena surfaces, and to our feeding.
There you go. Look, I met you 3 years ago, and we had a chat sitting on this deck about feeding, and it was just a general conversation. You contacted me just to say, can we catch up and can I learn a bit about benchmark feed? But let's just go back a bit further and tell us about what you've been doing for the last 5 years, because I know you spent some time in Europe honing your skills and learning. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my journey, I suppose, starts a little bit more than 5 years ago, when I had a $400 pony that I rode from prelim to Grand Prix, and we did our first Grand Prix when I was 17. So trained him myself. He was, the first love of my life.
What was his name?
He's a rock star.
Oh, right. Good name.
Rocky Tass. So he taught me everything I knew up until that point, and he was really my stepping stone to getting an opportunity to go to Germany when I finished school. 5 weeks after my HSC exams at, the grand wise age of 17, I trekked to the other side of the country knowing nobody and not knowing a word of the language.
Yep.
And I arrived there as a working student at Hofburnsen under my trainer's name's Judy Almerling, and she was a massive part in shaping me into the rider that I am today. And so I turned up there as a working student, and I planned to stay for 6 months, and I came home almost 3.5 years later.
Wow.
As close to an assistant trainer and riding up to 8 horses a day over there. Made the decision to come home at 21 and started my own business, Serena Island Dressage, and that's been running for 4 years now.
Fantastic.
And as small business goes, you can never predict how things will grow and change, and it's all really gone beyond my wildest dreams, really. And what else?
So your business is a balance of riding and preparing and producing horses and competing, obviously, and coaching?
Yes. So the business is made up of training horses and campaigning them on behalf of owners, producing young horses, and also producing young horses into, safe, suitable conveyances for their owners as well, to then move on to and transition onto riding themselves.
Yep.
Coaching riders, and also the occasional sales horse.
Yeah, good. So fairly rounded. I know you've got a really loyal band of people who rely on your guidance.
Yes.
Even though you're still young.
Yes.
You're obviously really experienced and some older riders, not old riders, just older than you riders, who look to you for guidance and mentorship and obviously training. They seem to be incredibly loyal. They must have been with you probably several have been with you from the start.
Yeah, I have an incredible team of people around me, and I think that we also have a pretty good culture between the trainers local to me as well. So that we calling the dressage hotline. Yep. When we, we ring each other and we ask for advice, and it's incredibly humbling that, that just as much as I reach out to them for advice, they reach out to me on things as well, which is fantastic. And then, you know, internally I've got 3 wonderful girls that work for me who, you know, treat and love every one of those horses as their own. We have an amazing crew of support in vets, in biomechanical work, in our wonderful farrier, everything internally within that, as well as, you know, my sponsors and things like that within all of that is what makes us
all those
what
things
we are. It truly is a village effort. There's never, you know, there's always the facade that is the front, but it's certainly not a one-man job.
No. I think you know, most elite riders have a horse health team and a human health team, and those things are all critical for improvement, aren't they? And,
yes.
And marginal gains, which is I think it's a great term, because if you do all those things a little bit better all the time,
yes,
the overall impact is significant.
Yeah. And I think as riders, every horse we produce is a little bit better than the last one.
Yep.
You know, every time we learn something different, and we learn something from every horse, no matter what level they're at. And I think we go, yeah, I can do that better next time, and then the horses are getting better themselves. We have a big science focus behind the philosophy of what we're trying to do here. You know, and I can explain that even through from the 3-year-olds that we've either bred or bought, and, you know, setting up those foundations now in, you know, making sure their feet are correct and that they're fed well and that they're produced perfectly as perfectly in balance as we possibly can, especially when you're looking at that 3-year-old that's, you know, going to end up over 18 hands. It's incredibly important to me that he is grown and produced as in balance as we possibly can, and in creating, you know, longevity in those horses. And that only makes my job easy. You know, popping me on top and doing the riding part's the easy bit.
Well, some would disagree with that, but laying the foundation for peak performance, I guess, over time,
yes.
Isn't it? And you're taking every horse you're treating as a potential Grand Prix horse.
Absolutely.
And so you're putting all those things in place,
yes.
along the way, taking care, which is fantastic, and having the horses around you, an individual horse around you for so long, allows you to manage that process, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So, and even Rusty, as when he came to me, he was already 7, but he had so little miles. He'd had an injury as a 4-year-old, but his mileage was so low that he was then a mature horse mentally and physically ready to then take on that workload and go through.
So you've produced Rusty. Can you give us his full name?
Royalty R.
And you produced him from scratch?
So he was one of the first training horses that came. He turned up 3 days after I landed back in the country.
Yep.
And, you know, Tracy had kind of who owned him at the time, had been following my journey even from when I was on my pony Rocky. She'd followed me through there. She'd followed me overseas. And then as I was coming home, she messaged me right away that he'd been, you know, comfortably back in work. And he was a really interesting find because he was a very fragile, sensitive young horse. So you know, the best thing that could have happened to him was that he had a slow start.
Yep. And
he came to me, and we just got on like a house on fire. And up until that point, you know, he hadn't really found a rider that he'd clicked with, and he has a very similar work ethic to the pony that I trained, and so that was what really made me fall in love with him so quickly.
Fantastic.
So he was just ready to start novice when I got him in 2019, and
yep.
He's just had his first into A start, and we're pushing towards under 25s later this year.
How exciting! That's very cool. Let's talk a little bit about feed, because we don't want to go on for too long, because people will, we want to keep it relatively brief. So let's just talk about feed, because you approached me back when Benchmark first started
yes.
to have a chat about feed and what our feeds can offer. And you have taken on board some of the recommendations that I made for you, but you've also adjusted things with our feeds to suit your individual horses. Can you tell us a little bit about how your approach to feeding and where you head? Just in your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I originally approached you mainly. It was to do with Rusty, and he was an incredibly athletic build, and so it was always that balance, and also a very sensitive hot horse. So it was always that balance with finding the right product that was going to give me enough cool energy, but also keep enough weight and muscle on him. He was my biggest struggle with feeding. I hadn't really had too much issue before then, but the philosophy behind your products and the approach of not cutting corners was really what stood out to me. And so, yeah, I took on board what we started with Rusty and my other mare Jingle Bell, who was also FEI at the time, and then really just dove in head first into pretty much all of the products, and I find it a very easy range of products to use. It's very straightforward.
Yep.
I know it's going to work. I know it's not going to make them crazy. It's very easy to tailor it and tweak it to each horse's individual needs in, how much of anything that they're getting.
Yep.
But it's really been very easy to use across the board, and it's really suited. We haven't had a horse that it hasn't suited, and it's been 3 years, and we've had a lot of different horses coming through here. So there's never been anything we haven't been able to find something suitable for.
That's good. We've learnt as we've gone along as well, because we've had a lot of faith in using fermentable fibre as an energy source to replace grain starch.
Yeah.
But you don't know until we have people like you who are using feeds that are basically fermentable fibre based, like the benchmark range, to get the energy you need to do high level dressage. And you're using the bases of mashes, which have a twofold effect, because you can put in like a cheap sport which has got a micronized grain base, so relatively high in starch, but when you put a mash base with it, it reduces the starch level but doesn't reduce the energy level.
Yeah.
So that the energy that you're getting for your high level work is coming not just from carbohydrate but also from fermentable fibre.
Yes.
And the overall starch level of the ration is relatively low. So that concept you've helped us understand, because we always thought that would be the case, but you don't know until you get to the point where you need these feeds to really perform for you at a level. Yeah,
and that goes very much hand in hand with that, producing the horses and producing a well-rounded, balanced horse in the long run of keeping the starch low and keeping the sugars low. In the long run, I think you've seen lots of high-performing horses that have been on so much sugar and such high levels of starch for such a long time, and that's when you get these significant metabolic disorders as aged horses when it comes to retirement, and they've had this build-up of stuff that's not really very good for them.
That's right.
When we can achieve the same result feeding them
a much more natural type of diet.
Yes.
So,
that's going to last better for them in the long run.
Have you had any ulcer issues in the stable?
Not so much, but I can't say that we've been scoping or anything like that to give you that answer.
So horse health has been good?
Yes, overall there hasn't been anything enormously suspicious, no.
That's good. So what lies ahead for you, Serena? What's next?
So we're just on the back of Dressage with the Stars.
Which you tell us about your success with your pony.
We took 2 5-year-olds, a 5-year-old horse and a 5-year-old pony. And the 5-year-old horse finished 9th, so top 10 in the country was a great result for us and for her. And the pony was 2nd in the first round and 1st in the second round, so she was the national 5-year-old pony champion, and then went into the Champion of Champions round with the guest rider from Germany, and was awarded Champion of Champions across all the ages.
How exciting.
Yes.
A few tears shed there.
One or two. One or two. So we're on the back of that. I have a high performance squad training next week down in Southern Highlands with Rusty, and then end of next month we head to Sydney CDI, and that's sort of our last big CDI before we head into what I call winter training.
Yep.
And then it'll basically kick off again for us in August, coming into the state championships.
That's fantastic. That's exciting. Yeah. So it's a seasonal deal, isn't it? But the work continues every day. Every day.
Every day.
Yeah. Well, that's been awesome, and I really appreciate having the chance to sit down with you, Serena, and I've enjoyed our chat. Enjoyed the coffee. It's been fantastic, and the sunshine is awesome. So really wish you all the best, and we hope our this partnership continues, because I thoroughly enjoy watching what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much.
And progressing and enjoying, as many do, I believe, enjoy your successes.
Oh, no, thank you very much, and we're very lucky to have you in our corner.
Thank you. Cheers.